Welcome to episode 124 of the NERO Show. In today's episode,
Factor have released the Monza, the bike for the masses. It's cheaper than the Oltre van. We chat through what's in it for you.
I've been riding the Bianchi Oltre Pro around the streets of Sydney. Do I think it's a fast bike? Do I think it's a dog? We find out.
We've got our dog or fast bikes as usual, and I've gone full high stack height UK crit scene spec. We chat through what I've done with my stem and handlebars in the test lab. All right, let's get into it.
All right, lots to get to today, Jesse Coyle. Where do you want to start?
Oh, it's got to be the Factor Monza, doesn't it?
So, yes.
Randomly popped up out of nowhere. Random time for a release, but we'll race bike for the people, for the masses.
The marketing of this bike it's a episode in itself.
Well, you hate this, don't you? You don't like it. You don't like being talked down to.
Well, I mean, this is the endurance bike chat continue to have over and over. But let's not get there yet. Let's maybe do the specs of what this thing is.
Yeah, well, for those that didn't see it, it's basically the Factor Ostro Vam gone on a budget. And it looks very similar. The main difference I can see is that the seat stays are slightly thicker. They're not razor thin like on the Ostro, but it's basically that. It's kind of the little brother to the Ostro Vam, a little cheaper and a little easier to live with, as they'd like to say. So I want to go through what they've changed to make this a bike for the masses. So more relaxed geometry.
What does that mean? Can you tell me exactly what that means?
It means it's a little higher and a little shorter.
Okay.
So you don't have to bend over as much.
Right.
Basically.
Okay. Interesting.
But not by much. So in the size that I run, which would be a 58, it's about it's 1 centimeter higher in stack. And the reach is a few millimeters shorter, basically the same. So not vastly different. It's just the tiny bit higher. For those that run a few spaces, you can run a few less. Or basically that. A tiny change in geometry, but a little bit higher, which is good, right? That's like plus.
Yes.
I think generally we're saying pretty much everyone's running spaces and quite a few spaces. Let's just get the stacks up a little bit. So that's cool. It's got in-frame storage. So in the down tube where the water bottles go, there is a little drawer where you can take the cover off and you can use that basically as a saddlebag. Saddlebags are ugly and annoying.
I agree with that.
Now you just get to stick it in your down tube. And it doesn't, what does it cost you? It's not they've cut a hole in the thing and put a little knob on it so you can, I rate it. I like that. Tire clearance for 34 millimeter tires. The only thing is I went and saw this in Case in person. The fork is massive. You could probably fit a mountain bike tire in through the fork. But on the rear, it's the same problem we've been having where there was a 28 mil tire on this bike and that was getting pretty close to the front derailleur. So they're claiming 34. I'm going to go out and say on that bike I saw, you would be way too close to the front derailleur with an actual 34 millimeter tire.
Well, that's half the problem, and this is one thing I'll get into a little bit with this bike later on. It all depends on what wheel you're running, what a 34 mil tire is. I mean, if you run it with that wheel that's on that bike in there, which was a 21 mil internal, which I think this is spec'd with, I reckon you do get away with a 34. Put a 34 Envy on there, good luck. There's some absolute rubbish happening there.
And I'm also not sure how they classify it because they say the frame can take 34, but if you look at the rear wheel, the first thing that's going to rub is the front derailleur.
Correct.
So is that within the classification of what they say is frame clearance? Or do they go, the frame can clear it? Oh, well, if it rubs the front derailleur, that's not our problem. I don't know how they classify that. I'm just saying, don't think this is some do-it-all bike that's fitting super well. We need to get that. We'll have to. Someone is going to have to test that what it actually can fit with a Shimano front derailleur, but it was getting close. It's got a new handlebar on it, which is like a new, kind of new, but also not super fancy. It's like an integrated one, but it's technically new. But
Don't let new get in the way of better.
Yes, that's kind of. It's weird to say it's new, but it's for a cheaper bike than the Ostro, so it's not better.
No.
And then there's things with how they've constructed it to get the price down because it is cheaper than the Ostro, so it's slightly wider in the head tube, and they're saying just the way that, because everything's a little wider, the seat tube I think is also a little wider, it just makes the manufacturing, well they say it makes the manufacturing a little easier and faster, so that's how they're getting the price down. Standard headset bearings, because the Ostrovam has the Ceramic Speed SLT headset, this just has regular 1.5-inch bearings. So, and a round steerer tube, so you could run a separate bar stem if you wanted. T47 threaded bottom bracket, UDH compatible on the rear with a derailleur hanger.
Ticks that box for you. That's great.
Yeah, I was really happy to see it.
Yep.
A range of sort of removable mounts, front and rear, for different lights and action cameras and radars and things like that. And then Aero performance, only 2.5 watts slower than the Ostrovam at 45k an hour. Not surprising if you look at it. It's just it's a little bit beefier from the front, but basically very similar.
I would even argue that the front is a little bit more optimized than the Ostrovam, but that I don't know. Maybe it was just that model that I saw in the shop, but the actual head tube looked quite deep.
Yeah, it's quite deep. It's just from the front. The frontal area is a bit bigger because it's a bit wider. Wheel set, again, new wheel set. I don't know. It's a Blacking 45 wheel set. Don't be confused by saying it's new because it is narrow. It is narrow. I think it's like a 21 internal.
Yep.
And there was the one in the shop had a 28mm Goodyear tire on it, and it looked from something you'd see 10 years ago. So carbon, but it's a carbon wheel set, steel spokes, but it's just not an up-to-date wheel set. And that's the bike. But I didn't want to actually go into this to the wheel set yet because that's more in the build. The actual frame, let me go. I think it ticks a lot of boxes. Yep. I watched the videos on it. I'm thinking, okay, wider tires, slightly higher stack. You can put your storage in the down tube. I'm thinking this looks neat. Looks like a pretty good mid-range road bike.
I completely agree with you, unfortunately. When we talk about the frame itself, it is ticking a lot of the boxes that we've been arguing for the last couple of months. It's trying to give... Okay, I'm not going to mention the value word at this point, but we are creating a model of bike that's, I would argue, the modern endurance bike. This is not a one bike to do it all. This is not a gravel bike solution. This is a road rider's bike, and it's got more than a little bit of aerodynamic tweaking. I would say this is a bloody good aerodynamic bike as far as that frame goes. And yeah, I think what they've done from the specs perspective is commendable.
It's got everything. When you walk in and you see it on the shop floor, it looks neat. Like it's because it's all very aero bike. It's all deep tubes. It kind of looks like the Ostro. So it all looks quite good. And that's great. So I think they've done a very good job with the frame. Then I started to move on, okay, if I'm going to buy this, what's the price? What are the specs? What can I get it in? Because that's actually where a lot of the reality is. That's where, in my opinion, it really starts to fall down. So you can only buy it in 3 configurations. Frame set with handlebars, Ultegra, or Force. That's it. That's all you can get it in. If you buy it, the frame and handlebars, it's $4,000 US, $1,500 cheaper than the Ostrovam. So you're saving $1,500 US. But this is the but. The Ostrovam was compelling because the customization it allowed you. You could choose the seat post offset. You could choose the handlebar width and length. When you buy the Monza, it's cheaper, but you don't have those options. So you're stuck with the seat post. You're stuck with it looks like 0 offset seat post by standard, except for the size 58 and 61. They go to the 25mm offset seat post. And then you don't get to pick the handlebar lengths and width. So in what I'd get, which is a size 58, it comes with a 40mm wide and a 120mm long. Now, I find that really disappointing. First, for a couple of reasons. Firstly, because you can't buy the frame set without the handlebars. And because this is where it starts to trip over itself, because it had the nice standard round tube, 1 1/5 bearing, whatever it is. So you could theoretically just buy aftermarket whatever handlebars and that you want. That's fine. But you have to buy it with the handlebars. And so at that stage, if you're looking, if for whatever reason you didn't want a 40-120 in the size 58, which I wouldn't want, I'm then having to factor in the price of a new set of handlebars aftermarket that are what I want. And then at that point, by the time I factor in, for example, those bars retail price, the blacking ones are $650 USD. I'm then up to 5,600, which is then less than $1,000 off what the Ostrovam was originally. And then so in that case, you probably just get the Ostrovam because you can pick the bars and then you get the top end frame. So I was pretty disappointed with that. I would have loved to have seen them sell a package that didn't have the bars with them, or just let you pick the bars like they do on the regular Ostrovam. So that was like, damn, bugger. So that's just the frame set. Let's look at the full builds. Shimano Ultegra, $6,799 US. The Ostrovam, $9,499 with Ultegra. So I think that's like $2,700 USD cheaper, which is a good chunk of change. But it doesn't come with the same wheels. The Black Kick wheels on the Ostrovam are much better, wider. They test pretty well. You've got these pretty narrow carbon wheels, which I would say if you're buying a new bike in 2025 and you get this and you watch us or you're kind of up to date, you're going to want a wider wheel set.
I was super hyped when I saw this launched because you see it, the boxes were being ticked. This is what I wanted. And like you start to dive deeper and deeper into it. And I've just got to ask, why? Why are you handicapping this release with, I don't know, from the outside looking in, just looks like really simple configuration things that you as a brand do really well. We hype this about Factor with their top end stuff. So not only are you not getting the premium bike, but you're not getting the premium service. And it's like, this doesn't feel like, not getting a business class flight. This feels like you're in the economy seats. You don't get to select your seat. You're basically next to the toilets and there's no chance of you getting any sleep on that long haul plane.
Yep.
Like you mentioned, both of us have independently seen this bike in person. And I saw it next to an Ostrovam.
Mm-hmm.
They're worlds apart when you actually start looking at the breakdown of what's on the bikes. And I do think that really matters. This doesn't feel like a Factor product the closer you get to it. I'm not as lost as you about the wheels. I don't think these will ride that badly out of the box.
Mm-hmm.
My issue with them is the future-proofing aspect of what you're buying here is non-existent. You are at the very end of the last generation of wheels.
Yeah. But they were claiming new wheel set.
Yeah. I mean that's bullshit.
The Black Ink had 40. There was a product called the Black Ink 45 that it was written. 45 was spelt out in letters. These are the Black Ink 45. I don't know if it's the same wheel set, but their claim. I think one of the articles I read was claiming a new wheel set. And if you're going to release a new wheel set, it doesn't really cost much. You'd have to get it unless they're using the old mold. It doesn't cost you more money just to make the wheel wider. You just pick a wider rim. I don't get it. I just don't get that. That if this is a new wheel set. It feels like they purposefully picked them narrow because they didn't want to release this with a modern wide wheel set because that would eat into the Ostrovam. I feel like if this is a new wheel set, then they've absolutely done that on purpose.
Yeah.
Because they know that people want wider. So they've just gone, no, well, if we give a 24 internal wheel set, that's going to eat into sales of the Ostrovam. So let's give a kind of shitty wheel set to justify it.
Why do we always end up being so cynical? But you're right. I mean, I'm the same.
Because it's not rockets. It's not that hard.
It really
you can buy
isn't.
a fucking $800 wheel set that's better than this.
Yeah.
So it's not.
Yeah.
When you're Factor and they claim this is a new wheel set, you can't. There's no other explanation other than the skeptical one to think that it's done on purpose because they're not idiots.
So you release a model of bike to just prove how good your top end bike is.
Isn't that marketing 101 of product differentiation? Is you have a mid-range product that's purposefully shitter than the top one, so the top one looks better value.
I mean, it's
But the problem is the actual frame, from
great.
everything I can tell, looks really
It's really good.
And I'd love to sit here and go, they've just destroyed the mid-range, but they haven't. It's kind of expensive and doesn't have what made the Ostro Vam good with all the customization. So it's basically in here competing with, I mean, you can get a Tarmac SL8 with the crappy Roval wheels, if we're just getting crappy wheels anyway, if you're going to upgrade them anyway, for $5,999 with Ultegra DO2. Now that has a separate handlebar and stem, but I'd actually say if you can't pick the handlebar stem, you're better off getting them separate. You go narrow bars, or just it just makes it easier. So that's $5,999. This Monza with the integrated bar stem, not the top one, is $6,799. So you're paying $800 more than an SL8. Or the Tarmac SL8 Pro that has the integrated handlebars. Also, you can't change them, but you can't change them on the Factor either. But that has the better Roval wheel set, which are really good. That's $7,999. So that's an extra $1,200. But that's an SL8, and that's a different kind of ball game. And it's got good wheels, so you're not going to need to upgrade those wheels. So, yeah, I was actually like just kind of. Yeah, I was disappointed when I saw it. I was like, it'd be so easy to recommend this. And when I was in at Case, I said to Edwin, like, it'd be really easy to sell this bike to someone that doesn't really know the details, because they go, that looks like that one. Oh, it's $1,500 cheaper. Oh yeah, it's got the black kick wheels, integrated, cool. And they probably wouldn't know any better. But if you know better, like if you watch this show, I don't think this is a really compelling buy for you.
Which doubles down on this point that I still keep coming back to with the modern endurance bike.
I wouldn't call this an endurance bike, by the way.
No, okay. Well, can I not call this a modern endurance bike with that geometry? No? I'd like to be able to do that. Not high enough? Okay.
No.
Fair enough. It's just, yeah. All right. I suppose I just come from the... Okay, can I call it a modern Gran Fondo bike? No? I just don't want to call it a flagship road race bike.
Right. It's just a mid-range road bike. Okay.
Well, as someone
because it's a road bike, it's not an endurance bike. Would be banging on about how comfortable it is.
Fair enough. All I was really the point I was trying to make is they just seem to take the piss out of this market because you're ticking a few boxes with the frame, but you're letting yourself down with the specs, and it's like that thing of, they won't notice. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Just blindfold them through that bit. Yeah. Where it just would have seemed so simple to put decent wheels on there. This seemed like a really weird move for Factor for me, and I don't know if this is part of like a big new play for them, because their whole thing has been, hey, we have one model of bike, or we have one tier of bikes. They are all premium. You come to Factor, you see a Factor on the road, it's the best climbing bike, the best do-it-all bike, the best time trial bike, whatever that might be. This is their first foray into, what are we calling it, quote-unquote mid-range.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think we'll see them do more of this? Is this like a iPhone SE that will just sort of sit there for years and never be upgraded anymore? I don't know. This just sound, if you'd said to me at the beginning of the year, someone's going to release a mid-range bike, I would not have said, Factor's got one on the cards.
You brought up to me that it was kind of like an iPhone SE. And for those that don't know, the iPhone SE takes the features that are in the regular iPhone that they think most people won't really need or notice and strip them out and make it cheaper. And so the pushback to me on this would be that the places they've stripped back, most average riders that aren't full into it won't really notice. Is that true? Is there a point here?
Yes.
Where the wheels are kind of good enough and the customization of the handlebars is like, well, they're probably not that finicky with their fit anyway, so they just go close enough. And so maybe this is good. Maybe this as a package is good enough. Is there a point there?
You're probably not miles off. there's probably a huge portion of the population that would jump on this bike, ride 21 mil internals for 5 years and not even know what an internal rim width is.
Yeah.
And their life will be perfectly fine. But then that's the talking down to people thing that I don't like doing, because I do think people deserve what is at least, I wouldn't call it modern technology. I would just call it emphasis on the modern trends or current trends of bike riding.
Yeah, and I think the argument is just you always have to compare to the competition. Like, if this is $6,800 and you can get an SL8 for $6,000 with the same group set, just with shittier wheels and not an integrated bar stem, because you could argue that that person doesn't really care that the bars are integrated anyway.
Yep.
So if they can save $1,800 and get an SL8, yeah, I just wanted to float that because that's probably what most people would say is like, you're nitpicking.
Oh, they're banging on about this. No one really cares. It's funny because anytime we talk about this and we get the criticism of no one really cares about that stuff that much. But the flip side is, okay, we just accept that people want mediocrity. Well, then we're talking down to people. So I don't know. To me, can do better factor, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So today's episode is supported by Pillar Performance. Just a little bit about Pillar. Traditional nutrition products like hydration and carbohydrates will take you through to the finish line, whereas Pillar's mission is to get you to the start line in the best condition over and over.
In this episode, Pillar wants to bring awareness to the benefits that magnesium supplementation can have for you as a cyclist, particularly as it relates to sleep and recovery. So do you have trouble getting to sleep each night, or do you suffer from reduced sleep quality, particularly after your biggest training days? If so, magnesium supplementation can help improve all areas of your sleep by regulating melatonin production and reducing the cramps that interrupt your sleep quality. Pillar's triple magnesium is a 300 milligram blend of absorbable forms of magnesium that tastes great and is Informed Sport batch tested to be free from banned ingredients.
Now, if you'd like to rip in and use a little bit of the magnesium product, go ahead and use code NERO at pillarperformance.shop for 15% off. For our North American listeners, head to thefeed.com/pillar and enter code NERO for 15% off. And a huge thanks to Pillar for supporting today's episode. All right, my turn to talk about a bike I've been riding for a while, Jesse. You've been bloody lent a few bikes. Now, I finally got a chance.
Okay.
Light Cycling in Sydney lent me the Bianchi Oltre Pro, as you can see here, with SRAM Red and the Reparto RC 50mm wheels. As you see it spec'd right there with bottle cages, which are actually Cadex bottle cages, and a computer mount, it is just under 7.8 kilos.
7.8 with pedals.
Now,
okay.
I wanted to start with the weight just because you're obsessed with it. That's a size 55 centimeter frame, 120mm stem with 40 centimeter bars. There is no flaring occurring on those bars, Jesse Coyle. They are the full 40 centimeters. I have, I'm riding it probably illegally with the tilt in. So I've got those tilted in to measure just under 36 centimeters. So I think that crosses the threshold of what you're allowed to do. But needless to say, it needed to be done. Now, there's not a lot. That's as narrow as those bars go. You cannot get any narrower than that.
And that's a full proprietary.
There is no... Yeah.
Actually, no, because I've seen... Remember when the handlebars were snapping when the bike was first released and the pros were running separate bar stem?
Yes.
I think you'll find a round steerer tube under that.
Oh, okay.
I absolutely 1,000% they were running FSA stems on that.
Fair enough.
But, I mean, it's a work of art. You wouldn't want to put a round stem on that. So you're stuck with 40s. Yeah.
Now, this chat that I'm going to go through is mostly going to be ride review, obviously, because that's what I do. There is no... I did not build this bike, Jesse. I cannot tell you a tolerance. There are no torque settings from me. I can't tell you... I didn't slice any parts of this frame open to tell you the thickness. All I did do, though, is I did a proper sniff of the tubes, and I really wanted to do this to compare it to my S5. There's just a lot of bike here. It's hard to really underestimate this. So just the pure frontal area of it, so that head tube measures over 6 centimeters wide. To put that in perspective, that's about 2.5 centimeters wider than my S5. And I've got some B-roll that I'll put up over this. You look down the bike, there's just a lot of tubes going everywhere. The down tube actual shape itself is like a cone shape thing. You would argue it's actually boxier than your Tavello, and certainly the S5. I can't see Aero like you can. Have you got any takeaways just looking at it?
Problem is, this is what we have to do because it hasn't been tested. It's all very, from the side, it looks really good. It's all very deep, ticks a lot of boxes. But yeah, when you're looking at it from the front, all the bikes are getting slimmer, narrower, less to see from the front, and there's a lot to see from the front. So I would be very, I mean, it's going to be sub 210 to a magazine just because of how deep the tubes are. I would be very surprised if it was down there at the 200 to 204 range because it's just quite wide.
Very wide.
I don't see how that's going to be possible.
No.
And especially when you remember that Strom that got released, I reckon they're the fastest by miles because there's nothing to see. This is kind of the opposite. So if I had to guess, it'd be 205 or 206 watt.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm surprised. I thought you would have had it down in the Orbea Orca mold. I wouldn't have put it up around that speed. There you go, Bianchi. Put that in your website. 205. I'll take that. I would 100% take that. Little nods, like things like that, have the recessed through axle bolts. You know, Canyon's new CFR, that was like one of the standout features. Hey, we've recessed the through axle bolts. This was a 2022 bike that has that done. So that is a certainly a nod to things. The aerodynamics, like you mentioned, we're going off nothing here. There's no testing. The testing on their white paper is, wait for it, Jesse, it's 17.1 watts faster at 50 kilometers an hour compared to the Oltre XR4, which is that disc brake bike. It's the version after the one we rode. Which, whatever. Like, I don't know what you're going to make of that. So we are legitimately shooting in the dark.
Totally. I mean, I could be 20 watts off. Yeah. It's
so
very much.
Step in Chris Miller.
Yeah.
So I did my 315 watt tests, couple of them. Never as fast as the S5. Never as slow as the TCR. So to put that in perspective, it stayed above 41 kilometers an hour. It never got above 43 kilometers an hour. It stayed very much in the realm of what I was doing on the Aeroad, and very close, if not a tiny bit faster than the couple of those efforts that I did on the Madone.
Okay.
Take all that for what it's worth, but I would therefore say that if you are just going to go for a pure speed test on this, that you're going to say it's not as fast as an S5 and it's faster than a TCR. I'm probably not breaking a lot of ground.
There's
there.
a big, yeah, okay.
Have you got any?
No, it just didn't shock you. It's not like you got on and were like, holy shit, this is like another sport. And it also wasn't noticeably slower. So it was just pretty quick.
Unfortunately, I can't get here and tell you it's a rocket ship.
Okay.
No.
That's fine. That's all right.
Jesse.
Yeah.
This is potentially one of the best bikes I've ever ridden.
Wow. Okay.
I will absolutely stand by that. It is the most comfortable aero bike I have ever ridden. That includes, it's the most comfortable disc brake bike I've ever ridden.
Okay.
That includes a titanium bike. That is set up with 21mm internal wheels. It's 65 PSI, probably the highest PSI I've ridden in many a month. The ability to soak up road buzz is easily the best I've ever experienced. It was quite shocking to me at low speed and at high speed how this handled not necessarily hard splits in the pavement. So, like a concrete slab where it changes. Not necessarily that, but just all the other nastiness you get on a road. For example, like that little section of Centennial Park that you talk about to the left as you're going up there, just nothing across that.
Because this frame, this is the Pro, which is the middle ground. They've got the Comp, which is the cheaper one. This one, which is the Pro, which has the countervail, which is the stuff they put in the carbon somewhere, which supposedly helps absorb the vibrations. The higher spec frame, the RC that the World Tour teams use, don't have countervail because it's heavier. Not by much. It's like 50 grams for the frame and 10 grams for the fork. But they choose not to put that in the top spec. So it's interesting that you feel like it's this comfortable because it might not be the case on the other two.
Which is interesting because I'd got that the wrong way around in my head. So when I started riding this bike, I thought it was the other way around. I thought I was riding the bike without the countervail and the pros had the countervail. And I'm riding this and having this experience. And it was genuinely a holy shit experience. I actually think there's special sauce here. And then going, but this doesn't have the countervail. So it wasn't actually like one of those situations where, it was like a placebo that I knew was there. It was actually quite the opposite of that.
Interesting.
I can't actually articulate enough about how comfortable this bike is to ride. It's really important to notice with that comfortable nature, it's through the hands and it's through the back and it's through the bum. Like there's not one part of this bike that is unbalanced when it comes to that compliance and that ability to soak up the buzz. And again, like I just have not experienced a bike that performs that well on rough roads. I did go ahead and throw the reserve wheels on this bike as well, and it just doubled down on what I was experiencing. So I don't particularly like these wheels at all. I think a little bit like the Factor. I think they're at best a wheel from 2018. And there's not a long way to go. There's plenty of tire clearance on this. So I put the reserves on, which have a measured 31 on the front. Before you look it up, it's a tire clearance of 32 on the bike. So it's I had a measured 31 on the front and I had a measured 33.5 on the back and I had heaps of clearance. I actually had more clearance than I have on the S5, which, I thought was interesting.
The wheels that you use on those, the Reparto Corsa, they're the World Tour quality wheels that they claimed when it was released. There are quite a few. If you look in Australia, Bianchi Oltre Pro with Ultegra Di2, that spec you're building is 13,500 if it had Ultegra on it, not your group set. There's one at 11.5 that has these Velo Man 1,600 gram 21 internal wheel set. So it looks like there's a few different specs at the pro level. So there is a crappier wheel set than this that you could get on it, just flagging. So would you swap this for your S5?
No. And that's
No?
That's not that. I don't think it's fast enough, ultimately.
Okay.
Yep. Now, you asked me, would I swap it for my S5? No. But if I didn't own that bike and this was the bike, and I don't say this lightly, I would ride and race this bike for the rest of the year. Not on those wheels, but I would do that. And I don't think I've not been able to say that about any other bike that I've ridden, tested, reviewed.
Okay.
Since. I feel that I could tweak enough. I'd have to go longer. So, things I would change.
I'm just going to get up now and have a look. So what's your thing about the handlebars then?
Well, this is the problem is going to be the handlebars because, yes, as we discussed, they're 40 mil wide. They are too wide for this bike, and I would need to go longer. So in terms of the packages and the pricing, this is where it gets a challenge for me.
We can't just disregard price.
No, of course not.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I know we're going to do it, but it's tempting to do a review and then you just let it sit.
But it is one of those, a little bit like the Factor, it's one of those ones where you are locked into a group set based, at least in Australia. And maybe bike shops can work around this, whatever. But let's just go with what's offered as a framework. So the Oltre RC, which is the one the pros ride, the bike that doesn't have countervail, that's 21,000 Australian dollars with Di2 or SRAM Red.
Okay.
Now I would completely disregard that frame. I think if you are buying a Bianchi, you're buying this bike, I think you have to have countervail.
You're buying it for the ride quality. Yeah.
You're buying this because Chris said it rides, it floats. And I think that the countervail is what's doing that. And that only comes on the Pro. So to get the Oltre Pro, you are locked into Ultegra Di2 or Force, SRAM Force. 12,500.
Okay.
Now that particular build is going to be over 8 kilos, especially with the Force build. It'll probably be close to 8.2, somewhere around there. That is a very challenging purchase. I would not ride that bike. I would struggle to recommend that bike. Now, I'm riding it with my SRAM Red. That knocks off a huge amount of weight. The one-fingered braking, blah, blah, blah. You know how I feel about that. SRAM, probably upgrading Force this year. Maybe that stays in the same price range. We're talking about an interesting comparison. But that is where that bike is priced. Now, there is the Oltre Comp, which I did not ride, which does not have countervail. I would just disregard that particular model of bike. This, to me, is the only model that you would consider. And I think if you stack this bike up against a Propel, you stack it up against a Canyon Aero, if you're sick of turning up to your Californian bunch ride, all the boys with the S-Works, and they're all talking about how they've customized their S-Works by putting on a rotor chainring or something. Like that's the level of customization you have on your S-Works SL8 with the boys. Turn up with this. Honestly. Like, I guarantee you will have a as good, if not better, ride feel. You're one hell of a good talking point, and you're potentially even saving a little bit of money over that top end SL8. I think if that's you, why not? The other person is the Bianchi fanboy, and this is funny because I found myself back waving to people with Bianchis. There's a little nod there. Now, I will say, the old boys, the other Bianchi old boys, they did not see that bike and go, oh, there's a Bianchi, let me wave back. It certainly was not. There was no Marco Pantani fanboys seeing me there and going, wow, get me on that heritage train. But if you just broke this purely down to ride feel, I think a Bianchi fanboy could get around this if they wanted to step into the new generation. I would argue you have to get the Celeste model. I think the black model is not pretty. I mean, I can't not talk about the aesthetics of this bike. I put one photo up on my Instagram story of this. Wow. I don't think I've seen so many vomit emojis in my DMs. I don't mind it. I think I could live with it. But yeah, obviously it'd be a challenge. But I would struggle to recommend it to anyone performance focused, just because we don't know if it's fast. We just don't know. I mean, Chris has done a few bloody steady state efforts, but I don't know. I can't tell you.
You know what? It's done exactly what we said it needed to do.
Yeah.
I mean, I said that.
Yep.
If it doesn't have the special sauce ride quality, it's going to be very hard to convince me anyone should buy it.
Mm-hmm.
But And you actually messaged me about 15 minutes into the first ride. Oh, it's got special sauce. I was like, oh, interesting. And it's like one of the If you notice it straight away, it's definitely noticeable. So kudos to Bianchi for doing that, because it's hard to. It's actually not a very good way to sell a bike.
No.
Because you can't really test ride bikes. So you're kind of relying on this ride quality, which is very difficult to on a 7.8 kilo bike that has no testing, and it's just like, trust me, bro, it rides well. But it does, and that's an important characteristic. So I'd ride one.
Yeah.
I think it's yeah.
This is an entirely different conversation, Jesse. This one reminds me so much of the V5 RS chat and the Tadej stuff. In a different universe, Tadej rides Bianchis. He's got a Bianchi Oltre RC and a Specialisma.
Well,
we're not even having this
they were under Jumbo Visma not that long ago. Yep.
We're not having this conversation. We're not treading on like glass when it comes to whether we think this is, because we'd be here like, oh, Tadej can win on it. Oh, it's amazing. It's just like, it's such a different conversation, because if I sit here and I'm talking about like, oh, I'm not sure whether it's that good or that bad a bike, people are like, well, you know, Tadej can ride away from everyone in Liège-Bastogne-Liège on the Bianchi. So why is this Miller guy think it's a big deal? It's.
Have I gone mad, or is it actually not that expensive anymore? I mean, it's still a bucket of money, but compared to the competition, I mean, Bianchi used to be the most expensive.
No. The XR4s weren't that. No.
Wasn't more expensive than a Specialized?
No.
It was Colnago was more. Was it? Maybe I'm thinking more of Colnago.
Yeah.
It was always more expensive.
Pinarello was always more expensive than Bianchi.
Yeah.
Certainly in this country.
Interesting. Because it's not that expensive. Like, even the retail price on this Ultegra one, it's on sale now for 9.7, but it was 11.5 for Ultegra with crappy wheels. But it's an S8 Pro in Australia is 12.5. So even on the retail price, so you could buy that for 9.7 and spend $2,000 or 2,200 on a set of wheels, and you'd still be cheaper than an SL8 Pro.
Mm. Yeah.
So I mean, it's still a lot of money, but it's not Colnago price. It's not Pinarello pricing.
No, it's not Pinarello pricing. If I'm Bianchi, ditch the wheels, get a nice OEM set up with vision.
Yep.
The other thing I will say, like, I've been, you know, critical of like the looks and their particular setup. I don't think this bike is holding Arkea back.
No.
The fact that they're going to get relegated, I don't think has anything to do with this bike. And it's probably a good thing for Bianchi that potentially next year they try and get onto a team that's successful. Like, I would love to see Bianchi to be ridden by Ineos Grenadiers 2026. So Pinarello moved to Q365 for Tommy Pidcock, and Bianchi over to Ineos Grenadiers, and bang, we got bloody
Filippo Ganna.
Yeah, get Ganna on a Bianchi.
Yeah.
Yes, I can see it. I can absolutely see it. Dog or fast bike, Jesse Coyle.
Yep.
Dog or fast bike number 1, the Stelbel Rodano rim brake.
Rim brakes.
Colour is Ferrari Tour de France blue metallic, finished in matte and chrome seat stays. Weight 8.2 kilos with pedals. It is Columbus Futura Caliper SL fork, chrome seat and chain stays. Campagnolo record mechanical group, 170 5236. Crankset is an 1132. Fulcrum Wind 40 wheel sets. We've got some Columbus Compass headsets. Deda 100mm stem. It's got the Deda Zero handlebars. Vivero Asiomas. Vittoria Corsa Graphene Open 28s. He'll subsequently swap those for some GP5000s post photo, I am told. And the Stella Italia saddle. Total price was just over 10,000 Australian dollars, including customs handling, because this was obviously imported.
Import.
Jesse,
Import.
fast bike or a dog?
Import market. That is a dog. Give me one reason why that's a fast bike. One.
Steel is real, Jesse.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
Can't convince you?
No. No.
Special sauce? Custom layups?
I reckon that'd be
geometries?
struggling to be more comfortable than the Bianchi Oltre.
Sadly, I agree. Sadly, I agree with that. It's I don't want to say the bike of someone who's given up, but potentially the bike of someone who's given up.
Yeah, I think, what can you do on that? You punt out to La Perouse for 35 kilometers.
You would go so much faster, you enjoy your life so much more, and you would only spend another $1,000 and you could have that bike there, and you would just be faster, and it would be as comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Madness, I tell you. Dog. Bike
Mechanical shifting. Oh, no. There's just no. There's just nothing there. Sorry.
Now, dog or fast bike number 2. This is more down your
route.
Okay.
What do we got?
Try Aero ICANN. It's the A9 Aero frame, size 58, chameleon color. Changes with the lighting. I'm familiar with that. My Chartreuse S5 does the same. NPY China bar tape, 400mm Aero ICANN handlebars, Pro logo M5 saddle, Ultegra 11 speed group set, hydraulic disc brakes, Ultegra group set. He's got the Magine power meter on there, Magine cranks, the ICANN Alpha Pro wheel set. I don't know anything about them. 18.35mm internal.
25 external.
25 external.
He's got the external width that mine are internal. Anyway, carry on.
DT Swiss 350 hubs.
Good.
Continental Grand Sport race tyres. And 25 front, 28 rear. Jesse.
This is a big lad. Look at this.
He's 6'1". He's giving me that.
He slammed his saddle backwards.
Yep. 6'1". I just think he's bought the wrong size bike. But
looks like he should have sized up one.
Mm.
That may be the biggest frame they make.
Where are you on the Lacoste crocodile sticker there? What's that? What's that about?
I don't know what that's throwing
what that
to.
is.
What are we thinking of this? I'm
getting erectile dysfunction just looking at this bike. Like the saddle is almost pointed up with that amount of saddle bar drop. He's even dropped the levers below the hoods.
Yeah,
it's just
very low.
So low.
I mean, the frame looks okay. So the frame's kind of got me into going, okay, I think I could work with this frame. But then it starts to fall apart around the edges. The wheels, I don't think, are any good. Mechanical shifting. Imagine because it looks internally routed. Imagine all the corners that shifter cable is going around inside the handlebars there. I don't think it's a fast bike.
No.
No. It's not.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah, it could, with a few changes. If you start from scratch, it could be. I think it could be done on that frame.
This is the problem with being over 6 foot and buying a Chinese frame.
Yeah,
you're really up against it. Like you really are. They just don't want to make bikes for people that tall.
Yeah.
So given that, for me, that's sadly another dog.
I think it is.
Third bike today.
Sorry, I just want to mention another thing. Magine cranks 175 on the left and 165 on the right for bike fit purposes. One leg is shorter than the other. What bike fitter did you go to? I've heard of shimming under the cleat to make up a leg length difference.
I've heard of a bike shop in Sydney accidentally doing that to someone to try and offload product once back in the day.
Oh, someone wanted to swap them.
Someone wanted to get rid of something they couldn't sell and hoped the customer wouldn't notice.
Okay.
Sadly, they did. Yeah.
Anyway, there you go. If you have leg length discrepancy, talk to this chap.
Dog 3 or Fast Bike 3. The Colnago V3 RS. The wheels are the Dero Bust 35mm, 21mm internal Conti GP 5000 TTs. Some marginal gains. Galfa rotors, Cervelo 36 handlebars. Drive chain is full Dura Ace, and he's claiming a build weight of 6.55 kilos here, Jesse Coyle.
Wow. I mean, it is tiny.
It is tiny, and it's lighter than a V5 RS, seemingly. So is that the bike Tade won his first tour on, 2020?
Yeah. Integrated handlebars. So there's a nod to aerodynamics and sort of modernness with the integrated bars, narrow. But then weight weenie build, V3 RS, light wheels. I think as a climbing bike, you're rocking a disc build at 6.55. I think for that reason, I'd give it, as a hill climbing bike, fast. Rate it. Like if you're down in Berry, you wouldn't call that a dog of a bike to go and ride the climbs in the foothills
Not
around
at all.
there.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think this is, as you said, as a climbing bike, bang on. Absolutely. I think this would ride really quite well. He has put in that it was tour tested at 229 watts. So you do want to make sure you are staying on the hills with this particular bike. But this guy's clearly a little dude. And I actually think it's almost got a little bit of a retro look to it. It's the bike Tade won his first tour on. He was there before it was cool to like Tade. You know, I'm on board with this. I'd happily fast bike.
Congratulations!
Well done.
Wow.
All right. Speaking of dogs or fast bikes,
come
Jesse,
on.
what have you got? What have you done? What have you done? Talk us through it. This is a little mediation, a little period we can talk this through.
I've gone shopping and I've bought some parts to see if there's anything in these really high stack height Aero positions. So I've got a new stem, 170 millimeters, plus 6 degrees, so it's pointing upwards. And then I've got the full narrow handlebars, 32 in the hoods, down to 35 in the drops. And both of them were from AliExpress. Actually, recommendations from Patrick Lino. I would not trust running random carbon handlebars from AliExpress, but if I crash and die, it's Patrick Lino's fault because he said they're good. And the stem also from AliExpress, big chunk of aluminium. And then to run them on the Cervelo, I bought a spacer from Peak Torque. He custom 3D prints them so the wires can go externally, the cables. And Edwin installed it, put them on, and I'm going to test it. I'm gonna see if it's fast.
So this, obviously, there's going to be some B-roll playing at this particular point. So everyone who's just vomited, I do apologise. I should have warned everyone to get a bucket next to them before that B-roll came up. But so you've got this elevated stem.
Yes.
Essentially because you couldn't get enough stack height, right?
Yeah, so I already sized up frame and ran as many spaces as could fit on the fork. It still wasn't high enough. Even with my forearms horizontal, elbows at 90 degrees, it was still too low. And so the only solution was to go to a separate handlebar and stem and come up even higher. There's actually a pretty cool website where you can put in your current stem length and angle, and then if you just come up higher and don't go longer, it effectively shortens your reach. So you can put in the length and angle of different stems, and then it kind of tells you effectively what your reach is and how your stack has changed. Because I wanted to come up, I didn't necessarily need to go that much longer, but I needed to come up about 4 centimeters higher. So I did that, put it in, played around with it, and it spat out. Or if you're going to run +6, it needs to be 170 long. And that's how I decided what length to go.
You've done one ride.
Oh, yeah, and I haven't. But I've only done one ride for about 50 minutes. So I need to actually.
No, we want to talk about that one ride because that was your initial.
My initial impressions. It feels absolutely awful in the hoods, out of the saddle. Probably a combination of just where the handlebars are and because they're narrower. It's super awkward. Okay. Like it feels like crap. Yeah, it feels really bad.
Particularly where on your body when you're riding.
Well, it's just I've got the wobbles.
Okay.
I feel like I'm a beginner. I feel like I've never ridden.
Okay. But what about in terms of like, where was the most pressure when you're riding in terms of, we're talking wrists, back, neck?
Oh, that was just when I was out of the saddle riding it overall.
Okay. But what about when you're in the position? So you're trying to hold this position. Tell me what feelings you're getting.
So the problem was it felt really, because it felt hard to hold with my triceps, but that was also because I hadn't really adjusted this. This was just as I got it from Edwin. I need to adjust the shifters angle and the tilt and the handlebars. I need to play around with that because they weren't on the right angle. But obviously here's the thing, right? I'm used to, in my Aero position, not having my elbows at 90 degrees. They're a little bit more open. It's maybe like 110 degree angle at the elbow. And that just biomechanically, that is a more effective position for the tricep to hold. Your tricep gets stronger as you get further towards extension. It's just biomechanics of it. Like if I asked you to hold a push-up position with your arms a little bit bent versus really bent, you would hold it for longer with your arms just a little bit bent, most basic level, right? So in this new Aero position where I'm up higher to get my elbows at 90 degrees, I think by nature, it is just harder to hold that. And so the only way around that is to kind of use the forearms as a bit of support on the handlebars, which requires getting them in the right position. So I'm still yet to fiddle with that. But yeah, my initial impression was, wow, it's really difficult to hold this Aero position. Even though I'm up higher, in theory, it should be easier, but my arms were getting totally busted.
I joined you for that brief Suki ride that you did. We took some footage. I heard your chat on it. And I subsequently took the information to friend of the show, Mick Cupid, bike fitter here in Sydney.
Okay.
Mick's been having a few health challenges recently, but he's back fitting. So hopefully he's going to be firing soon. But he had a bit of a look at your setup and the config that you have currently. So he's pretty confident you are too high.
Okay.
He wants you lower. He wants you lower so you can get your forearms more flat and to sink basically into that position so you can tuck your head. He also wants you to tilt your saddle tilt your saddle down a little bit to give yourself a little bit more bend through the midsection and get a more neutral spine, because you can kind of see that you're starting to get that little bump in the spine over the top. Can you come down?
Yeah, I can come. So those spaces, because it's externally routed, and there's split spaces, I should be able to just remove those spaces without going and annoying Edwin. So, this was just.
First test.
Definitely wanted to come higher.
Yep.
But no, I can remove a couple of those spaces and drop it down a few centimeters if I need to.
But you think that the hood position?
I think it was mostly the hood position because I couldn't really use my It's kind of stupid, right? The UCI rules say you're not supposed to use your forearms as a point of support, but everyone does.
Everyone does.
So that's just stupid, right? So I need to get the hoods in the right position, probably tilting them down a little bit, just so I can use the forearms as a bit of support, and then I should be okay. And then if I still feel like it's just too high, then I can come down. I don't feel like it's too high though, because I felt like the back angle when I did have my elbows 90 degrees and my forearms flat, the back angle felt appropriate. If I came down much further, even lower, I feel like I would be back closer to where I was before, which was not a sustainable position from a back angle point of view. So that's going to be part of what I'm playing around with. But the problem is, this needs to be night and day, cut and dry faster for my hour around there. Otherwise, what am I doing? Because it's narrower, it's higher, it's awkward as hell to ride. So if it's not noticeably faster, like 1 kilometer an hour, then
you're gone.
Yeah, I think I'm going back.
I can't see you, even if it is, continuing this. The elephant in the room here, Jesse, is just how horrendous this looks. And you know it.
I know it looks awful.
You feel it.
I don't care, though. If it's faster, I'll run with it. I'm just... I mean, it should be faster. I can tuck my head. I got my arms in. I'm up.
Oh,
it should be faster.
I mean, anecdotally, even just sitting in behind you, like I could not see any hand. It was extraordinary. Like it was just, all I could see is butt. There's just no, nothing in front. I mean, there's an argument to say this is going to be super fast. And then you will do your UK crit scene tour later this year, and the what is it, Lincoln GP or whatever it might be.
But I think I'd like to join into, because I'm not like Arm Peters, God love him. He's got a whole bike brand centered around this, so he's not really unbiased. Whereas I'm kind of like, if I go back, I go back. Maybe it's really fast, I stick with it. I don't really care. I'm not really invested in either way. But I think I'd like to be share my thoughts.
Is the only factor that you're looking at here is your hour speed? Is there any other?
Basically just the hour speed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
If it's faster, I would struggle to go back because I'm not going to go back and be going noticeably slower. Why would I go back? So it's all hinges on the speed. Yes. Yeah. And it looks, I mean, I know it looks ugly, but it's kind of attention grabbing. I think it's cool from that.
You've definitely hit that. You've hit that nail on the head. No two ways about it.
So if it's faster, that's good, but it also needs to get more comfortable. There's no way I'm going to be able to keep it like this if my triceps are burning within a couple of minutes of holding the position. So I'm going to have to do more experimenting on that. For now, that's the thing that's got me the most worried. I'm going, I can't even, I'm up higher, but it's less comfortable.
Yeah.
How does that make any sense?
Yeah.
The work to be done. I'll report back.
Well done, Jesse. Soldiered on today. Congratulations.
Yes. I am not 100%.
Not 100%, but you
managed
it.
We get in and we record.
We do
the
it.
Show must go
Show
live.
must go on. Exactly.
Yes.
All right. Hopefully we'll see you next week.
Chat to you then.